Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Today's video, I'm going to be making yet another gate. You know, I do a lot of gates here on the channel, but what I like is really no two gates are the same. They're all different in their own certain way, and today's no exception. The customer here today asked me to make him a gate using 2x4s and 1x3s. Metal, of course, not wood. So what we're doing is we've got two side panels that are 24 inches each and a 42-inch gate. We're going to be using 2x3 rectangular tube for the outer frame and 1x3 rectangular square tube horizontally for the inside of the gate. It's going to be a fun project. Let's get started on today's video. Today's video is sponsored by King Metals. They've got all your fabrication needs in one location. From hinges to hardware, balusters to metal decor, brass to aluminum, and a whole lot more. You name it, they've got it. Check them out today at kingmetals.com. Now let's get back to today's video.
All right, so there was a big pile of metal right there. That's the 2x3 and the 1x3s. That's what we're going to be using to build the frame and the slats here. All right, I'm over at the Evolution with a brand new Champion cutoff blade right here and starting the cutting process. You can see that this is the post. You can see that that one right there is a pretty thick one, and I'm going to be using that one for one of the posts on the side rails. You can see it's a 188 wall thickness. I just wanted that one to be strong. And now this is the thinner tube right here. This is 083. This is what was available, the thinner stuff, and this is what we're going to be using for the rest of the frame. Just cutting everything at a 45 right here. Getting all the pieces I need cut for the frame. You can see right there. Oops, I cut that the wrong way. Yeah, that happens. Got to cut the 45 this way. You know, you get carried away, you're not paying attention, and sometimes things happen. All right, there we go. All right, I want to apologize, you guys. You might can tell my voice is a little raspy. I got a little bit of a cold going on here, so bear with me, please, and we'll get through this pretty good. All right, there's the other post, and all the pieces are cut and over to the welding table. Table dog's in place right here, and the two pieces come together on a 90-degree angle, and I fasten those down, and then I piece the remainder of pieces together. I like everything nice and square. Before I get started, I'm checking for square right there, just right on the money. You can see the long part of that post is maybe sticking off the end of my welding table down there. You'll see that I'll be putting a flat plate on the end of that a little bit later on. All right, operating off the HTP 2500 Revolution today, and I'm using 30 thousandths wire. I ran out of 35 thousandths, so I spooled it up with 30, and it's about 340 inches a minute with the 30 thousandths. And once everything is tacked into place, I just go along here and just weld as much as I can out on this side, and while it's all clamped into place. And a brand new Champion flap disc right here, trimmable flap disc, 60 grit. It's my go-to. That's what I like to use right here. Works really well. Just the perfect amount of thickness here to grind. You know, sometimes you get the thicker grit, which is a 40 or 36. It's a little rough, or the 120 is a little fine. The 60 I find works really good. All right, and these are the pickets, not pickets. I guess you'd call these slats. In this case, they're going to be running horizontally. So slats, cutting two at a time right here. Got a lot to cut. And with that brand new blade, it just cuts nice and smooth like butter. You know, this is a good way to go, the cutting thing. I'm happy with this. The only downfall is you can see all the chips. The chips are just everywhere, but I mean, outside of that, it cuts fast, it cuts efficient, and cuts straight and smooth. Like I said, the only downfall is just the mess with the chips. But hey, that's all it is. It'll be okay. All right, so laying these things in right here. One important thing to note on something like this is you want to make your adjustments all the way down. Because when you get to the very end, you don't want to have a small piece. You want all these pieces to fit in nice and equally, and I did that earlier, so I know that 3/4 of an inch all the way down, with the exception of the last four. I'm going to need to open those up about a 1/16 of an inch to make up for the gap, and you'll see that here a little bit later on. So I've got some 1/2-inch spacers on the bottom right here to get these slats up into the center of the 2-inch tubing. and then 3/4 spacers, spacing my way down. And here I am moving along right here, and this is what I was talking about. My last 4 or 5 pieces right here, I need to open them up just slightly, somewhere about 1/16 of an inch. Measuring every one to be sure that they're still parallel with the frame all the way down. You don't want these things to start to move on you. If they start moving, things get out of whack real easy. And by opening them up like this, this is something that you're not, if I didn't mention it to you, you would never notice it, especially when the gate is up or the fencing is up. You will not notice that if you're not looking for it, that's for sure. It's just a small amount, and you can see just opening that up a little bit. And the camera doesn't really show it justice. It looks like it's a bigger gap than the other, but it's not really that bad, especially this last one right here. But this is going to come into play later. These measurements that I'm going with here, I have to transfer across to the gate and the other side panel as well, and you'll see that a little bit later on. All right, and just welding this across here, and what we're doing here, there's no manipulation here in the weld. I'm just kind of pushing the weld along right here. I just want to fill this in. I'm trying to get as small of a weld as I can in here, so I'm not really concerned about the stack of dimes look, if you will. I'm just trying to get this filled in nice and smooth. A little bit of a bigger gap right there that I had to fill in on that one. All right, up on the end and in between the slats, this was a narrow 3/4 of an inch, and it's tough to get the gun in there, but I was able to get that in there, and works out pretty good. And then coming back the other way as well. Welding these all the way around. A ton of welding here on this project. 2 side panels and a gate. And while it's up here, I may as well go ahead and weld this section in right here. And then moving on down, this is it right here. Coming down to the very end, you can see not really manipulating at all, just kind of pushing that weld along. All right, here's that plate, 6x6. This is 3/16 weld thickness, and I am drilling in some 3/8 holes here on the corners. This is what I'm going to use to mount it to the concrete surface. I'm at the KBC mill right here, and just drilling this in. All right, then over at the King Voyager drill press. Wow, this drill press is something else. I did a video on this thing, and man, I'm telling you, if you guys are looking for a drill press, this is the one. This is the one I would recommend. Got it at KBC Tools. Man, what a great drill press. All right, you can see that plate, excuse me, is mounted to the inside. I want it that way because this is the gate opening, and I don't want anything to be on the inside of the gate opening, so I mounted that plate flush to the side of the post right there, and plenty of room for anchoring. You can see that. All right, one side panel down, and there's the other one down as well. I didn't want to bore you. It's the same exact thing. And I've laid it out on the welding table. I believe my dimension is 81 inches across the opening size. So that would leave me the gate size in there, I don't know, somewhere around 46 inches or so. And then I like to allow 3/8 of an inch for the hinge and 3/8 of an inch for the lock assembly. So whatever the distance is, I'm taking away 3/4 of an inch, and then that'll be my gate size. All right, there's the pieces cut together. Again, the same process. Table dogs in place, 90-degree angle. Get 2 of them in perfectly on the 90 degrees, and then piece the other 2 pieces in. Now this is a little bit tricky. This is where the lock assembly is going to go, and you got to treat this a little bit different. Now I've learned this the hard way over the years, and so this is what really worked out well for me. And I'll show you that here coming up. So we've got the piece, the lock assembly, and the other piece going in. And by the way, the lock assembly should be about 36 inches from the ground to the center of the lock assembly. This is a piece of 1.5 inch square tube, and I'm going to use that as a straight edge right here. It's pretty important because if you don't do this and you start welding this together, it's going to draw that center section in, and now all of a sudden your gate is not going to be square. Clamping everything down, checking for all my dimensions are where they need to be. And then I'm going to drop a piece right in here temporarily, and this is going to hold that when I start welding together. It's going to hold that from drawing in. This little the little lock box I'm doing right here, you can see I'm getting it all adjusted and getting it clamped down. I want to hold it nice and secure into place before I start welding everything. just getting the right clamp. I couldn't, the holes didn't line up right where I needed it to be. All right, I'm happy with it. Time to get going. I'm just welding as much as I can right here to hold everything in place. Everything is clamped down so it's not going to move around. You know, it's a pretty thin material. That's why you may see just if I don't weld all the way across in a single motion, it's because the material is really thin. And you know, sometimes you burn through, so I'm just taking my time and just filling that up so I don't burn through, and sometimes that happens, so you just fill it. All right, once it's all done, take the flap disc and smooth off the welds. I like to do that. You know, this gate is going to be powder coated a bronze color at the very end, so this is going to have a really nice finish to it. All right, the gate frame is now done and square, and it's the slat time. Back to cutting two at a time and getting all the slats cut that I need, and then I'm going to lay them in there. All right, so this is where it becomes important. You can see that little piece of paper hanging on my welding cart back there. That has all the dimensions from the side panels that I made earlier. It's important that when you're putting these together and you're doing something like this, that the slats all line up all the way across. You want them to look, when it's installed, you want them to all line up across. And so I'm referring to the dimensions that I had on the side panels for the gate right here. So as long as I hit those dimensions, everything is going to line up all the way across. One slat at a time, checking the dimensions and lining up exactly the way they were. Now that center piece that you see where the lock assembly is, that's already been placed and welded in place. I know that it lines up right on that lock assembly. I designed it that way so that slat would be right in the middle. And as long as I just hit these right here, it'll be perfect. It's a lot of work. You know, this is a lot of welding and a lot of work, but the reward at the very end is going to be nice. It's going to be a really nice gate. It's going to be a good looking gate. You know, it's the beauty about doing this. I do so many gates, and very rarely do I do the same one twice. It's something different all the time. All right, just like those side panels earlier, you remember I had to open it up a little bit, but I don't have to worry about it here because I've got those dimensions written down behind me there. And as long as I hit those, I know it's the same all the way across for the side panels and the gate. All right, same process here. I'm not going to show the whole thing. You guys saw that on the side panels, but it's the same for the gate right here. No manipulation, just kind of dragging that weld across there and getting a nice, smooth, consistent bead. All right, up on end, and I will just get everything welded in between like I did before. Not a lot of room to get in there, but just enough to get it done. All right, the two side panels and the gate, that's what it looks like when it's going to be installed. The last thing I need to do here is just get the hinges welded on. And these are weld-on hinges, and I get a lot of people ask me, you know, where do these hinges need to go? You know, it all differs in the size of the gate you're building. And this one here is 6 foot tall, so I like my hinges 8 inches down from the top, 8 inches up from the bottom. I think that's a good balance right here, and that's what I'm doing right here. The important thing about these weld-on hinges is you need to be sure that they're lined up nice and straight. The hinge on the top and the hinge on the bottom, they need to line up perfectly, and your gate will work perfectly fine. If they're out of sync or not square to each other, you'll have a hard time. And welding only on the flap that's indicated for the weld-on hinges. You can see that flap right there. That's where you need to weld it only. All right, there is the gates right there and the side panels, and then I took it over to the powder coaters and got them installed, and this is what it looks like, and I'm very happy the way this turned out. It was a very satisfying job to do. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more video. Thanks for watching.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.